This is Devin Kraft from the Science Faction Podcast. You're listening to the BS Podcast Network. Enjoy the show.
On May 23rd, 2017, the film community lost one of the greats, Sir Roger Moore. This episode is dedicated to you, Sir Roger.
My name is Bond. James Bond. Pick one. Kananga, poppy grower in thousands of acres of well-camouflaged fields protected by the voodoo threat of Baron Sandy.
A genuine Felix Leiter. Illuminating.
A duel between titans. My golden gun against your Walther PPK.
6 bullets to your 1.
I only need 1.
But James, I need you.
So does England.
Commander James Bond, recruited to the British Secret Service from the Royal Navy, licensed to kill, and has done so on numerous occasions.
A British agent in love with a Russian agent.
You've shot your boat, Stromberg. Now it's my turn. Are you suggesting the shuttle was hijacked in midair?
That's for you to find out, 007.
Mr. Bond, you defy all my attempts to plan an amusing death for you.
Heartbroken, Mr. Drax. Before setting out on revenge, you first dig 2 graves.
I'm here, Mr. Bond of the British Secret Service.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned.
That's putting it mildly, 007.
You have a nasty habit of surviving.
What they say about the fittest.
He suggests the trade. The egg for your life.
I'd heard the price of eggs was going up, but isn't that a little high?
I propose to end the domination of Silicon Valley.
My department know I'm here. When I don't report, they'll retaliate.
If you're the best they have, they'll more likely try to cover up your embarrassing incompetence.
Don't count on it, Zara.
You amuse me, Mr. Bond.
I'm Batman.
Who are you?
My name is Bond. Bond. I'm Batman.
Name's Bond.
James Bond.
I'm Batman.
Bond. James Bond.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman. This is the Batman versus James Bond show. The show covering everything related to Batman and James Bond movies. And now, here's your host, Brian Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to an all-new episode of the Batman vs. James Bond show. The name's Thomas, Brian Thomas, and I am your host. And this is the show where we discuss everything related to Batman and James Bond movies. It's hard to do this. Yeah, I can't say it's great to be back. Yeah, this is, as you heard from the very beginning, as you've heard in the news from this last week, we lost one of the greats. Sir Roger Moore has passed. I know I'm jumping ahead here, but we're gonna get the show done. I promise you, we're going to get the show done. And I have to say this. I said this just now on social media. This is a show that I wasn't anxious to do. Okay, I love doing this show. It's my heart and soul. I always put into this show, if you couldn't tell. And my favorite 2 characters. And then when I heard about this, I'm like, I'm in awe. I'm in shock, and I'm like, what? I can't believe this. I really can't. And I know all of you are, especially you James Bond fans out there, you feel exactly the same way that I do. The Batman fans, you've at least heard the name Sir Roger Moore. You're familiar with his movies, I'm sure you are. But and trust me, I'm going to dedicate this whole episode, majority of it, to him in his memory. We're going to press on. Okay, we're going to get this show on. And you know what? I just want to say that I don't want this show to be I don't think Sir Roger would want us to, just grieve it entirely over him. I think he would almost want us to celebrate his life. And that's what we're going to do on this show. We're here to remember him the way we remember him as we were growing up as Bond fans. The first time that you watched him on screen as James Bond, whatever movie it was, even if it was A View to a Kill, that's okay. We're going to be talking about them all. And, before we jump into things, just a reminder, BatmanVSBond.com. That's right. You know the name. Go there for all latest shows and more content. You can also find the show on the BS Podcast Network. That's bspodcastnetwork.com. Find my show and a whole bunch of other great shows on there. Let's get right to it. Before I also forget, I want to wish everybody in the States, I hope that you had a great Memorial Day weekend. Remember those that have served this country. We had them to thank for our freedom. So let's go right into it, guys. Roger Moore, let's start with the tweet from his family. This came out this past Tuesday, May 23rd. It says, with the heaviest of hearts, we must share the awful news that our father, Sir Roger Moore, passed away today. We're all devastated. It was with a heavy heart that we announced that our loving father, Sir Roger Moore, has passed away today in Switzerland after a short but brave battle with cancer. The love which he was surrounded with in his final days was so great it cannot be quantified in words alone. We know our own love and admiration will be magnified many times over across the world by people who know him for his films, his television shows, and his passionate work for UNICEF, which he considered to be his greatest achievement. The affection our father felt whenever he walked onto a stage or in front of a camera boiled him hugely and kept him busy working into his 90th year. Through to his last appearance in 2016 on a stage at London's Royal Film Festival Hall. The capacity crowd cheered him on and off stage, shaking the very foundations of the building just short distance from where he was born. Thank you, Pops, for being you, and for being so very special to so many people. Our thoughts must now turn to supporting Christina at this difficult time, and in accordance with our father's wishes, there will be a private funeral in Monaco. Deborah, Jeffrey, and Christian. Let me go on here. This is from the James Bond dossier. Sir Roger will always be remembered as the most enduring actor to play 007 as a great ambassador for the franchise. From his announcement as Sean Connery's replacement in August 1972 to his retirement in December 1985, he thrilled and charmed a whole new generation of Bond fans and redefined the series. In his 7 Bond films, Live and Let Die, The Man with the Golden Gun, The Spy Who Loved Me, Moonraker, For Your Eyes Only, Octopussy, and A View to a Kill, he made James Bond his own. Arguably the greatest purveyor of cool Britannia, before the term had been invented, he kept the British end up as reign as 007 saw Bond through the 1977 Silver Jubilee and national resurgence in the 1980s. He was the Bond not only of his own, but also the Daniel Craig generation by keeping Ian Fleming's Gentleman Spy alive when people thought his best days were over. We're all sad at the passing of a great British icon. Nobody did Bond better. This is a statement from the Broccoli family, Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli. We are heartbroken at the news of Sir Roger Moore's passing. On the screen, he reinvented the role of James Bond with tremendous skill, charisma, and humor. In real life, he was a genuine hero working in UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador for many years, dedicating his life to alleviating the suffering of children all over the world. He was a loyal and beloved friend, and his legacy shall live on through his films and the millions of lives he touched. We shall miss him enormously. There's so many people, or so many like Bond actors, for example. I know I'm going to be jumping through here. I'm sorry. But, you have an actor such as Pierce Brosnan, and, trivia fact here, Roger Moore was in a film with Pierce's first wife in For Your Eyes Only. He'll actually mention it right here. This is from Pierce Brosnan. Dear Sir Roger Moore, it is indeed with a heavy heart that I hear the news of your passing this morning. You were a big part of my life, from the Saint to James Bond. You were magnificent James Bond, and one that will lead the way for me. The world will miss you and your unique sense of humor for years to come. My sincerest condolences to your family and children. Rest in peace. Let's see. Sir Sean Connery also paid tribute to Sir Roger. He made a statement to The Independent. I was very sad to hear of Roger's passing. We had an unusually long relationship by Hollywood standards that was filled with jokes and laughter. I will miss him. One of his best friends, Michael Caine, which I did not know was one of his best friends. I am devastated today at losing one of my oldest and closest friends, Roger Moore. My world will never be the same again. This is also from Jane Seymour. I am devastated to learn of Roger Moore's passing. The first leading role I ever had as a Bond girl was such a new and frightening world, and Roger held my hand and guided me through every process. He taught me about work ethic and humility. He was so funny, kind, and thoughtful to everyone around him, and that Roger taught me what a movie star was and should be. Through his lifelong work with UNICEF, he showed me the true meaning of being a humanitarian and giving back. He was my Bond, Jane Seymour. This one is from Daniel Craig. Nobody does it better. Love Daniel. This one from former Bond girl Britt Eklund from The Man with the Golden Gun. This is how I'll remember Bond forever. Rest in peace, dear friend. And she shared a picture of him in his white tux and her standing next to him. If you remember VJ Octopussy, VJ Amiritage, if I pronounce that correctly, sorry. He tweeted, Roger Moore, it was a real honor to work with him in my debut film. Amazing class, panache, humor, and stature. From the Saint to Bond to UNICEF. There's so many comments out there, and I will be getting to everybody else's also soon. Let me go back here. This was really hard. I know this hit me really hard, I guess, because growing up with James Bond is something that I've talked about from the very beginning of this show. Of course, I started off with Batman, but, as soon as I was, I would say of appropriate age, I don't know if there's an appropriate age to watch James Bond. The fathers are always, I'm sure, cheering in the background, or some of the mothers are cheering in the background, just saying, oh, just let them watch it. It's okay. And I'm sure, my parents were kind of saying the same thing. Dad was probably saying, oh, it's okay. It's PG, but it's more adult themed PG. Before PG was PG-13. And Roger Moore, they did bend, the rules a little bit, and that was okay. I was thinking back to when the first time I saw Roger Moore as James Bond. And from what I remember, okay, and this is a long time ago, okay, at least for me it is. I believe I was in at least middle school. GoldenEye was already out. I was starting to get into James Bond. I started listening to Tomorrow Never Dies score, and then I started getting into my dad's The Best of Bond soundtrack. If you guys have ever heard of that, the Best of Bond soundtrack is it usually comes out like every 10 years at least. And it has like all the title songs, sung by the original artist. And the first one I listened to on there was, of course, the John Barry, or the Monty Norman, James Bond theme, which of course is iconic. I loved it from the very beginning. And then I skip around and I found some catchy tune on there. And I'm like, what is this? I really like this. I'm really digging it. It's really upbeat. It's really snappy. Duran Duran, A View to a Kill. That's right. Duran Duran, A View to a Kill. Listening to it earlier today, and you know what? I listened to it at least twice, maybe 3 times today, and the instrumental version is stuck in my head right now as we speak. And it's just such a catchy tune. It's what happens when the greatness of John Barry and Duran Duran come together. Maybe not everybody's favorite movie, but I think, well, at least I will say that's one of my favorite James Bond theme songs ever. That's when of course I didn't see the movie yet. And I think the actual first Bond movie that I ever saw, Roger Moore Bond movie I saw, was For Your Eyes Only. And I remember, it's when James Bond used to air on TBS that you would have the Turner Broadcasting System. I think it's, over and abroad also, but at TBS, they would have their marathon. Sometimes it would be 14 days of 007, something along those lines. And, I was downstairs with my cousin. We're just, playing around with our toys or whatever, and, turn on the TV and see what comes on. And I'm like, hey, this is a James Bond movie. I was like, well, I'll watch James Bond, but I've never watched this guy. Who's this guy? And you started from the very beginning, For Your Eyes Only. And, I can remember everything from the ski chase in there to the rock climbing. And I'm like, and of course I was still younger. And, here I am just kind of like a teenager and just trying to figure out, what's all this about? This is like an 80s movie, but I'm like, I'm really enjoying it. And, from then on, that's when I started by the time I think I hit high school is when I started, whatever Dad had. I know that he had A View to a Kill on VHS, so I definitely watched that. So then it made sense for me to, of course, start, singing the Duran Duran theme song over and over again. And then I kind of went all over the place. I remember The Spy Who Loved Me. I believe he had that one. That's still one of my favorites. And then as the VHS started getting released more, or the collections anyway, we bought Live and Let Die, and of course we bought For Your Eyes Only again. And somehow snuck in there was Octopussy and The Man with the Golden Gun. And when I first watched Live and Let Die and The Man with the Golden Gun, here I am. I'm like, okay, well, I like this 2 of the Roger Moore's movies already, so I can't wait to see how he kicked it off. I'm like, this is different. This is not this. It doesn't feel like James Bond. It's something's different about it. And I know I'm not the only one to say that. And I do enjoy Live and Let Die, and I even enjoy The Man with the Golden Gun. It's just that it was different because maybe I was so used to Pierce Brosnan, maybe I was so used to Sean Connery as James Bond after Goldfinger and Thunderball, and seeing this, it's just you have a different guy just, kind of introduced, and he doesn't look like the other guys. He's not brunette, and he's not, he's more, lighthearted. He's throwing around more jokes. And, at the same time, so I'm like, okay, well, this is more of a fun kind of Bond. So after a while, I realized, I was like, well, this is a different type of Bond, but I still enjoy it. And that's something I've always felt about the Roger Moore James Bonds. And I still say that Spy Who Loved Me and For Your Eyes Only rank up there as some of my favorite Bond movies. But with James, when somebody asks me what my favorite Bond film is, of course I always say go back and listen to the rankings episodes, but I will say that, it depends on the actor, because especially when it came to Roger Moore, I had 2 favorites, and they still are my favorites to this day. I don't know if For Your Eyes Only is my favorite because it's one of the first Roger Moore Bond films I watched. I know there are a lot of people out there that can say maybe whatever the first James Bond movie you saw, or first time you saw Roger Moore James Bond, that might be one of your favorites. But we all have our favorites, and as long as you're a fan of James Bond, of course, that's awesome. When going back even into the interviews, I was doing a little bit more research today, and this is from a prior show, of course, but I still wanted to share it because it just kind of gives you an idea of the personality of Sir Roger Moore. This is a man who was just, he didn't take himself seriously. And he really was just, he had that kind of persona, just like, okay, well, I know what I read in the Ian Fleming novels. Actually, I'm jumping ahead here. Let me just read this, and then I'll share more of my 2 cents here. This was in an interview with, I believe it was IO9. This was back like in 2015, give or take. And he was asked, what was the key to understanding Bond's character? Can you give a practical example of how an actor you applied that insight to a specific scene, moment, or line? And he said, when I first took on the part, I read Fleming's books. There was little offered in them about the character. However, I remember reading one line that said Bond just completed a mission, meaning a kill. He didn't particularly enjoy killing, but took pride in doing his job. That was the key to the role as far as I was concerned. He also went on to say about, the internet blogs, and he agrees that they were funny and not so sure about a suave, and certainly they didn't regard me as having been cold-blooded. There was just the one scene in For Your Eyes Only where I had to be rather cold-blooded in killing a villain. They say that scene changed the series tone for my films, but I wasn't comfortable with it, if truth be known. I was rather cold-blooded and mercenary on Fridays, though. That's the day I received my paychecks. I thought it was funny. He also, and the next question was, what was my approach to James Bond? What was your approach to the saying, my name is Bond, James Bond? Oh my goodness, I spent many, many hours committing that line to memory. Guy Hamilton, the director on my first Bond, said, don't say the line with a Scottish accent and we'll be fine. Words I heeded. He said when he meets people, when people meet you on some level, they believe that they're actually meeting James Bond. Are you aware of that? He said, I don't think they think I'm Bond. Well, okay, maybe. I sometimes get comments like, hello, Mr. Bond, and such like. I smile and keep walking. But if someone comes up to me and says, hey, you're James Bond, I'll say, no, I'm Roger Moore. I used to play James Bond. I don't pretend I'm the character. Therefore, I have no expectations to meet other than those of meeting Roger Moore. I am, of course, charming, polite, and courteous. Where do you and your Bond's personalities converge and diverge? He said, well, when I played the part, he looked and sounded like me. That's where the similarities end and the differences begin and end. This was one of his last interviews, and this was with Mirror, and where Sir Roger stated, I always saw the part inherently comical. How could I possibly be a spy when everybody knew who I was, even down to my drink of choice? Also, it beguarded belief that I could fly a jet plane, operate a mini submarine, know what to do in space, and ski down back runs, straight off cliffs when I became an expert parachutist, without so much as turning a well-lacquered hair. I saw the humor as a necessary release in the films, a way of drawing breath between all the action, and a signal to audiences that I wasn't taking myself too seriously, and so neither should they. There was clearly a lot more fun to be had on camera and off it. And in his heyday of the 1970s and 80s, he quoted, it was a carefree time. If the crew were getting out of hand, I turned a soda siphon on them. I imagine that that would result in a complaint to human resources or health and safety these days. It just gives you an idea, though, of what kind of gentleman this was. He was there to have fun. That's what I like. I know that there's actors out there, actresses out there that take their parts so seriously. They feel they have to, do whatever. But here you have a guy, and I remember, reading interviews and hearing interviews about how he used to play backgammon. Cubby Broccoli would come and get him. And, if he was just before he would shoot a scene or whatever, and he would say, come on, let's go. And they would just start playing backgammon, and the director would be like, what are you doing? And he's Cubby Broccoli, and Roger Moore would go with him. And they were great friends. I remember hearing that, there, of course, some people know about the tension between Sean Connery and Cubby Broccoli, and then Roger was in between, and he tried to get the two together in a room and, trying to get them to mend and so forth. That's just kind of the person he was. Going back to fun facts about Sir Roger, he's the oldest actor to debut as James Bond. He was actually 45 in Live and Let Die in 1973. Could have fooled me. He has played Bond, as mentioned, 7 times, the most ever by any actor, James Bond, including... I know Sean Connery, we always say never again doesn't count, so that's why we're saying it that way. The Spy Who Loved Me was actually his favorite, admittedly his favorite James Bond film. A View to a Kill, his least favorite. He never, I repeat, never had to do a screen test for 007. Producers came to him and they said he needed a haircut and to slim down. I also remember hearing that he was actually one of the first choices, or even before Sean Connery. I think he was wrapped up in The Saint, or he just thought they were joking, and but still they came to him and they said they wanted him, and no screen test. That's awesome. He intended For Your Eyes Only to be his last James Bond film. At the time, he was 54 years old. He was older than any Bond actor to play Bond in A View to a Kill at age 57. Connery was at when Octopussy was released in 1983. He was 52. It was announced he announced his retirement in December 3rd, 1985. Even Sir Roger believed himself that he was embarrassed to be in love scenes with girls that were old enough to play his daughters. His favorite gadget was the magnetic watch from Live and Let Die. What kind of watch was that? It was a Rolex. Yes, it was a Rolex. So he would just twist it, and then it would, the spoon, and then M wanted his spoon back, and then with Kananga, that little pellet and so forth. That was really cool. Christopher Lee was his favorite villain, Mr. Scaramanga from The Man with the Golden Gun. Barbara Brock, admittedly so, was his favorite Bond girl from The Spy Who Loved Me, and Richard Gere, also from The Spy Who Loved Me, was his favorite henchman. He even said that he would have liked to play a villain in a Daniel Craig movie, but he knew it would never happen. Just going on with that, let me move. I'm going to, real quick, some of my favorite Sir Roger moments. Like I said, I believed everything that I've read, everything I've seen of him. Remember, I was born, what to say, I'm an 80s baby, so at that time, by the time I was actually able to watch it, it was too late for him. Let me rephrase that. He wasn't James Bond anymore. It was probably Timothy Dalton at the time. Yeah, it was around that time. It was in between anyway. And so, of course, I've always had just the VHS tapes, and then I've had the DVDs and the Blu-rays and whatever else now. But that's how I was introduced to the Sir Roger movies, all of my dad's VHS collection, which to this day I still don't know where it is. But having said that, though, I will say that everything that I've read and everything I've saw in interviews, he was a very humble man. He was a very stand-up guy, very modest person. You could clearly tell how much he appreciated what Bond did for his career. Never did he, I know there's people out there, or there's actors, actresses that after they've done a franchise, they don't want to be recognized for that. They don't want to remember that they don't even want to be asked about that. Sir Roger, he appreciated what he did. He didn't take himself seriously. He's like, yeah, I played Bond. I know I wasn't the best Bond, but I did what I could. I tried to make it fun. And, he said he brought a fun and lighter side of James Bond, and that's exactly what he did. Let me go into some of my favorite moments here, and then I'll get to yours also. Live and Let Die. Oh, wow. What's interesting about that is, though, we never actually had a pre-title sequence with him in that. So it jumps right into him in bed with a lovely Italian lady. As she put on the dress in there after Moneypenny hit her in the coat closet, and then all of a sudden he has the watch now, and he unzips the dress with the watch, and what does she say? She's like, "Oh, such a soft touch," and he's like, "Sheer magnetism, darling." I try to do a Sir Roger Bond impression. It's not good, but I'm gonna do what I can here. I liked when he did his introduction to Mr. Big. He's in Harlem, and he's like, "Names is for tombstones, baby." And I'm like, yeah, all right. You're gonna make him earn my name's Bond. Now, I know he did say it to Miss Solitaire. He kind of popped around the corner. He's like, "My name's Bond, James Bond." And she's like, "Yes, I know." I love the little plane chase that they had in there. When they're in Louisiana, or they just landed in Louisiana, and they're at the airport. And what's so cool about this plane chase is the plane never gets off the ground. It's like a car chase / plane chase, and Kananga's men are chasing him around the airfield, and into the hangar. And you have the older lady in there. Her name escapes me, and they're closing the doors, and she's just like, "Holy shit!" And it was just, and Roger's playing it so cool. And after he gets out of the plane, he's like, "Same time next week, ma'am," and whatever her name was. And little comments like that is just, that's how he took it. That's how he took himself. It's almost like Roger Moore was playing himself in James Bond from what I can see. The gator sequence in there when he jumps over the gators. Oh, it was so good. And then it goes right into the boat chase. Yes, that iconic boat chase. We are introduced to Sheriff J.W. Pepper, and he's just the most of the boat chase with that is there's no music throughout that. And then all of a sudden you just see him. And this is something, before I forget, it's the facial expressions of Roger Moore. One thing Roger Moore I will always remember Roger Moore for is his facial expressions. And I know a lot of other people will also. When he's approaching the road, he sees J.W. Pepper, and mind you, he's in the water, and he's getting ready. He knows that the road is right between him and the other part of the water, and he just, he cut his eye. If I remember correctly, his eyes widen a little bit, but then he kind of has this like grim look on his face, like, "Yeah, I'm gonna just jump the boat over the police car," and that's exactly what he did. And then J.W. Pepper's like, "What the?" And it's so good. What was great also about Live and Let Die is the only gadget that I remember is the Rolex watch, the magnetic watch. And when it came time to defeat the final bad guy in the boat, on the boat chase, all he did was use it looked like, I don't know if it was paint thinner, or I think it was paint thinner, and just threw it in the guy's eyes, and he was being crafty with that. He was being clever with that. I loved, let's see, when he near the end of Live and Let Die, the black turtleneck. If we're getting into clothing in fashion, I will say this: Roger Moore had a really cool style. I think he's the one that's responsible for that black turtleneck that I still love to this day. And yes, I do have a black turtleneck. No, I don't have a 44 Magnum to go with it. But yeah, he's the one that pulled off that look. And he, when he's trying to save Miss Solitaire, the final battle between him and Kananga, and his little comments, he always did have an overinflated opinion of himself. The Man with the Golden Gun. This one, there were some cool moments I liked here. When he's trying to get the golden bullet from the belly dancer, and she's like, "I've lost my charm," and he's like, "Not from where I'm standing, darling." And he fixes his tie, and then he leaves. It was so good. And then, he sneaks into the room of Maud Adams, and she's in the shower, and what a scene that was. And then, he's like, good morning, or good afternoon, whatever it was. And then she opens the shower and the gun pops out, and of course she's kind of naked in the background, and he's like, a water pistol. And after that, he does, he's trying to get the information out of her, and this was like kind of like, wow. I was like, Roger, you slapped a woman around. I was like, you kind of surprised me here, Sir Roger. And but at the end, after that, he's he fixes her robe up, and then he pours the champagne in there, and he's like, bottoms up. I still use the bottoms up all the time. That's the thing about Bond movies, especially, is especially as a Bond fan, you'll notice yourself quoting these and just to a casual conversation, or just you quote it on social media, whatever. And most of the time, a person will not get it. And just besides the point, though, those are some of the favorite quotes I love of Roger Moore, and a lot of the quotes I do use are still from Roger Moore. This other car chase when he's chasing down Scaramanga with, and yes, Sheriff J.W. Pepper did return in The Man with the Golden Gun. They're in like the AMC car, and Kananga's in his car. They cross back to the bridge, and J.W. Pepper is like, "You're not gonna." "You bet I am, boy." So funny. The first time I ever watched it. It still is funny to this day because it's Roger, and he's mocking. He's trying to do a Sheriff J.W. impression. It's so good. When even going to the end of The Man with the Golden Gun, when he's having lunch with Scaramanga, he's like, "There's a 4-letter word, and you're full of it." And it's like, you notice how he didn't actually say the word in there. No idea why he didn't say that, but he was just trying to be so cool and nonchalant about it. I did like that. I love in The Man with the Golden Gun how he when him and Scaramanga are facing off, and he's like, "I've never killed a midget before, but there's always a first time." That's when it was with Knick Knack. But besides the point, though, he snuck, and this is all spoilers if I haven't said it already, I'm sorry. He ends up acting like the mannequin that Scaramanga had of him. Somehow he got into that suit. I still haven't figured out to this day how he was able to get dressed so fast. Not a clue. He pulled it off. He turns around really wobbly, and he's in that famous Sir Roger pose, and then just shoots at Scaramanga. And in this case, he only need one. The end of The Man with the Golden Gun with "Good night," and they're like, "Good night, good night. She's just coming, sir." So good, so good. The Spy Who Loved Me. This list could go on forever, so it was really hard to narrow it down. Very beginning, we finally see Sir Roger in a PTS, the pre-title sequence, as they call it. And, he... M is asking Moneypenny, where's 007? "Oh, he's in so-and-so." "Well, get him to pull out immediately." And then she's like, "Oh, James." "Oh, perhaps I can enlarge in your vocabulary." The ski chase in there, probably one of the best the pre-title sequences ever. That ski chase as he skis off the mountain, and the England flag or the UK flag just opens up. It's perfect. It really is. His quote, "Oh, when one is in Egypt, one should delve deeply into its treasures." There's a quote I have no idea how I would ever use right now, but it's just that good. When he is, what's the guy's name? It was the help. I guess the other henchman in The Spy Who Loved Me. Is the other henchman, Shandor, I think it was. And Roger Moore is trying to ask him. He's like, "Where's Feckish? Where's Feckish?" Pyramids. And then pushes him off the building. And then he's like, "What a helpful chap." And then just fixes his tie. Him and Barbara Brock, they really did have the chemistry in here. When when they fast forward, when they're trying to start the truck that Jaws drove out into the desert, and he's like, "Women drivers." He's like, "Let's try reverse." That means backwards. And then when the truck finally breaks down, he just does this little. He just says, "There's this little." There's always that twinkle in his eye, in a way. There's always that he did that little grin in there that he does a lot. So good. When he gets the Lotus from Q, you don't really hear Q saying much. He's like, "Right now, pay attention, 007. I want you to take extra good care of this equipment. Q, have I ever let you down?" Frequently. So good. That's the kind of relationship they had. When, of course, Naomi, one of my favorite moments of course, The Spy Who Loved Me, and as is many other gentlemen or females favorite moments in there, is when Naomi is coming off in the bikini off the boat, and she's come to collect him and Triple X, and then Bond is like, "Handsome craft, such lovely lines," and the look that Triple X gives to Bond is so good, and he's just pushing her. He's trying to push her so much. It's so good. The Lotus chase. Oh yeah, that Lotus chase. I can't get enough of that Lotus chase. Still one of the more fun car chases in a Bond movie. Let's see, the nuclear bomb. Fast forward to the submarines when he's trying to penetrate like the steel wall barrier, whatever it is. But so he's trying to stop the nuclear weapons. So what does he do? He goes to to get a nuclear bomb, or get the timer, the detonator off a nuclear bomb. So when he sat on that camera and you hear, I was like, "Oh, this feels like a Bond movie. This really feels like a Bond movie now." The jet ski, when he's once again, he's riding on that little. I get it's like a jet ski anyway. He's like sitting on, and it's like a ski-doo, something like that anyway. And maybe that's for the snow anyway. But he's doing that, and he's just just how he's riding. He's just playing it so cool. It's like, what person wouldn't want to be like that? Just riding the Wave Runner in your Navy uniform and just going to save the girl and save the day. It's so good. He's like, "You've had your chance, Stromberg. Now it's my turn." How does that grab you? When he's fighting Jaws, and he has the magnetic and drops him off into the shark. And then, of course, one of the favorites is with at the end of Spy Who Loved Me, 007, "Bond, what do you think you're doing?" "Keeping the British end up, sir." And then it goes into the Spy Who Loved Me theme song. Oh, so good. Moonraker. Let me think here. Oh, the free fall that he did it was made to look like that in the pre-title sequence there, as he's just fighting that guy just for the parachute. Oh, so good. The chemistry that he had with Mr. Drax. "You miss Mr. Bond." "Did I?" All little things like that. When he meets with Dr. Goodhead, "A woman. Your powers of observation do you credit, Mr. Bond." Let's see. Balls Q? Bowlers 007. All kinds of things like that. I shall have the pleasure of putting you out of my misery, Mr. Bond. Heartbroken, Mr. Drax. Take one giant leap for mankind. Where's Drax? Yeah, little things like that is so good. And even, actually, what's so funny about Moonraker, I always realize that, is that he never used a gun in that movie, or at least as Walther PPK. But when he's trying to shoot like the aerial weapons that are floating through space, he grabs the joystick and acts like he has that look as like he's trying to shoot, like he's shooting the Walther. I always love that. Like I said, the many facial expressions of Sir Roger Moore. Who can't forget, what's Bond doing? I think he's attempting re-entry, sir. And Bond didn't. He just looks at everybody, and then he's kind of like, oh, and then he kind of like does that smirk. He does that smirk all over again. He's like, I think it may be time to get home. Oh man, For Your Eyes Only. I could go on for this one also. For Your Eyes Only, the pre-title sequence in this was perfect, and even for the first thing that he said that happens in here when the priest goes and gets Bond, said, "Mr. Bond, your office called something about an emergency." He's like, "It usually is," and he's like, "Oh, you want to keep?" He's like, "Don't keep your head on," and oh, you want to get off, and then he just drops Blofeld into the chute there, and just how he, is just so evidently cool about like when he's flying that helicopter and he had no control. It's so good. The ski chase in there, oh, it was awesome. I liked the car. Oh, I can't forget this. So when he's driving Melina's little yellow car in there, and the henchmen pull up beside him, and he looks over at him, and he does that little eyebrow thing of his. It's still one of my favorites. I know I posted on social media. I'll have to post it again anyway. Still so good. I'm running out of time here, but I will say Octopussy. Man, trying to think off the top of my head. All right, let me, I'm just going to cut myself off there anyway. Let me hop right to your favorite moments or comments from social media. This one's from Casper Ingels. Sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly. I love when he slides down the stairs to Octopussy. There you go. Perfect. Fantastic moment. He will be greatly missed. I agree. That moment in there, what does he do? Didn't he throw like the tiger or the tiger, carpet, whatever it was? He throws it over the staircase, and then he slides down the staircase, takes like an AK-47 and just starts shooting everybody, but and then he shoots the post at the bottom, so of course he doesn't get hit in a certain region. Oh, so classic. This one comes from Canadian 007. My favorite Roger Moore James Bond moment is when he makes love with all the women, and the way he teaches into how to be a modern gentleman as well, since he was a ladies' man. Yeah, one can say Canadian 007 that yes, he was a ladies' man. He was so swap. I think you and I were talking about this before also. It's just that way he had with women. We would try, or I'm trying to remember if I've ever tried to use a Roger Moore charm in a way to, when I was single. I'm sure I have, and I know that a lot of people probably have also. So yes, very good. This one comes from Bam F Style. The car kick in For Your Eyes Only was always my personal favorite James Bond moment of Sir Roger Moore's tenure, but I think my most favorite of his that was most indicative of his personality was his unflapped post-flight response, "Not from where I'm standing," after the dancer and the man with the golden gun cries out after that she lost her charm. Yeah, that's how it goes. It's a moment so reflective of his smoothness and wit. Plus, he's wearing one of my favorite suits of the series. Yeah, that was a good suit there, Bam. That was a good one. This one comes from Damien Templar. It's got to be the intro to The Spy Who Loved Me. But James, I need you. So does England. So good. I agree on that one. Mr. AX Up 1980. He was the first 007 I saw on TV. He was my number 2 Bond. Not to say he wasn't cool. Out of all of his 007 movies, it's hard to choose which scene or line is my favorite. Yeah, it was really hard for me to pick mine also. Yeah, there's so many. I mean, 7 films, but even though they might not, there's some that are better than others. There's still so many moments or quotes from them. This comes from James Bond Down Under. Our favorite scene is from The Man with the Golden Gun when Rogers Bond visits Lazar. Yeah, that was a good scene. Let's see, iconic alternatives. The climbing scene from For Your Eyes Only. Oh, that was so good. Watching For Your Eyes Only over the recently, just watching that climbing scene, and he's up there, and of course we know it's stunt double, but still. The guy's just, after Bond had, hammered his, see, here shows you how much you know about climbing, but he hammered his the thing to attach the rope to, and the guy just takes his gun and just starts, and you hear that, and just as soon as the one falls out, and then all of a sudden you just see Bond just falling, it's like, did that just happen? It's like, oh, wow, that's stunts that we're missing from Moonraker. That's right. Yeah, 007 HQ says kicking Locke's car off the cliff. Oh yeah, that's a good one. That might be my favorite. What he's referring to is from For Your Eyes Only, and then Sir Roger, like I said, his facial expressions. What was so good about this is when he finally caught up to Emil Locke, is that, he runs up the stairs and he's going at a moderate pace. Remember, he's a little older too. And then Locke is just driving around his old Mercedes trying to go to the mountaintop. Who knows where the hell he's going? And then Bond catches up to him, gets right in front of him, gets into that classic James Bond pose, puts his hand on his right wrist, gets the Walther PPK out, shoots it about 3 or 4 times, shoots him in the shoulder. And then as the car is getting ready to slide off the cliff, Locke is just holding on for dear life, and then casually, cool as ever, walks Sir Roger, and then he pulls out the white dove pin, and he's like, "You left this with Ferrara, I believe." And then tosses it in the car, and the car starts moving barely off the cliff. And then what happens? Sir Roger has this darkest Bond moment ever. He kicks that car off that cliff, and then down goes Locke. So good. Spectre High Command. The showdown at the end of The Man with the Golden Gun was legendary. Yes, the duel of titans. To us, Mr. Bond, we are the best. Yes, so good. Tommyus 179, keeping the British end up, sir. Yes. We'll save that for the very end. James Bond Instapics, so many to choose from, I can't decide, and I look forward to it, though. Thank you. Yeah, there are so many. John Stalin, when he pushes the car off in For Your Eyes Only. Bram Weidelman's Octopussy's train scene and all the Berlin scenes. Yes. Oh, yeah, I forgot. General Orloff. I'll take this train scene here for you. When Bond drives one of the, I guess it's like an old school Mercedes, and he drives, they shoot out the tires, but then he drives it onto the train tracks. General Orloff is trying to chase him, and then he stops and he sees Bond chasing after the train with the car on the train tracks, and he's like, "Follow that car." It's so good. Yes, and as he's jumping from train to train, and yes, so good. James Bond Addict. "Oh, Miss Sanders, I didn't recognize you with your clothes on." Oh, yes, he's referring to The Man with the Golden Gun, Maud Adams. Luke Selyu, 8221. "I'm looking for Dr. Goodhead." "A woman." Yes. This comes from the Salaway. "The dinner with Scaramanga. There's a 4-letter word, and you're full of it. The people I kill are killers themselves." And part 2, the revenge of, let's see, Moonraker, when Bond convinces Jaws to take his side, and with Goodhead's help, they blow the space station sky high. Yeah, who would have thought that he could turn Jaws after all that? And every scene that Jaws and Roger Moore were in together, it was always so entertaining. It was always slightly different in a way. This comes from RDS 1220. From Live and Let Die, Bond uses his watch to undress Miss Caruso. Such a delicate touch. Bond replies, "Sheer magnetism, darling." And of course, when Bond jumps on the crocodiles, yes, some of my favorites. I-99 Cool, his favorite film of mine, For Your Eyes Only, has a quote, "Bond, forgive me, Father, for I've sinned. That's putting it mildly, 007. Has made me laugh over and over." Yeah, that is a good one. It really is a good one. Let's see, a few others here. This one from Codename Kodak Rome. Kodachrome, the return of Blofeld and the car chasing For Your Eyes Only, as well as the opening ski chase scenes from both The Spy Who Loved Me and A View to a Kill, are quintessential Roger Moore moments. I agree. This comes from Trident Cobra. "My favorite is when For Your Eyes Only, Blofeld takes control of the helicopter, or Bond takes control of Blofeld's helicopter, and Moore grabs Blofeld, gets him hooked to the helicopter, then Bond drops him to his death. So good. Mr. Bond, I'll buy you a delicatessen and stainless steel, please." Oh, that's still funny. I have a good moment. This comes from Martin Bond 007. "I have a good moment when Roger Moore as James Bond defeated Baron Samedi in Live and Let Die." Oh yeah, that was good. He he kicked him into the snake box, and then Baron just gets bit by snakes, and then he just closed it. Really good. Spectre High Command, turtleneck wearing, Magnum totin', Roger at the end of Live and Let Die, and the battle between Titans at The Man with the Golden Gun. This comes from James Bond Down Under. Favorite memory was meeting Sir Roger at one of his evenings in Sydney in 2008 and having his autograph from that night. Like most, I grew up watching his Bonds on TV, loving most of them. Favorite scene is from The Man with the Golden Gun when he visits Lazar. Yeah, there were so many good moments, guys. This comes from Egon Ling. Connery and Craig made Bond cool, but more made him fun, something the world can sorely lack at many, many times. Word to that, brother. Definitely agree on that. Toby Cruz. This was a man who started his 007 career running across gators and ended surfing in the snow to the Beach Boys. On, offset, all special. Yeah, I almost forgot of You to a Kill. Yeah, throwing in Little Beach Boys with that ski chase there. It was a good one. Yeah, so we could go on with our Sir Roger Moore moments. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I know that we all this is definitely one that's definitely hit a lot of us. But I think the best way that Sir Roger Moore would want us to honor him and remember him is to do what we're just doing right now. Keep quoting his lines, have those memories, keep watching his movies, and enjoy them for what they are. Don't take life too seriously. Enjoy it. And, So, from all of us, here's to you, Sir Roger. You will be missed, sir. Also, I did want to mention some other sad news that Zack Snyder, as I mentioned on this previous show, that he did step away from doing the Justice League after there was a family tragedy. Unfortunately, his daughter committed suicide back in March. His daughter, Autumn, committed suicide at the age of 20. Snyder initially planned to continue his work on Justice League even after taking 2 weeks off to cope with the tragic loss, but understandably, it became too much to deal with. Quoted, "In my mind, I thought it was a Catholic thing to go back to work, but to just bury myself and see if that was the way through it." He was telling the Hollywood Reporter, "The demands of this job are pretty intense. It is all-consuming, and in the last 2 months, I've come to the realization I've decided to take a step back from the movie to be with my family, be with my kids who really need me. They are all having a hard time. I'm having a hard time." So what happened is, for those of you just catching up, Zack Snyder was directing Justice League. They were still, it's still in post-production right now. And as it turns out that Joss Whedon, it was announced that he would be directing a Batgirl movie, is going to be taking over for Zack Snyder. Whedon, I've heard that Whedon is still, going to make sure this feels like a Zack Snyder movie because majority of it was shot. Whedon was already hired did come in to write some additional scenes, and then when Zack Snyder realized he couldn't finish the movie, he convinced Joss Whedon to take over. Zack Snyder came out on Twitter even this past week saying, "Thanks for the outpouring of support. I can't express how much it means to Debbie and I, and Autumn's mother, Denise, at some difficult time. To support or seek help, please know there are places such as afsp.org and jedfoundation.org that are doing great work." Yes, so our thoughts and prayers are with the Snyder family. And unfortunately, another passing. This one came out today at the day of recording. Miss Molly Peters. Molly Peters was a Bond girl in... She played Patricia Fearing in Thunderball. It was the one in the clinic when Sean Connery was... getting his, I guess, the clinic, whatever he was at. Anyway, she played the mink glove wearing Patricia Fearing. She has passed at the age of 75, so rest in peace, ma'am. Because we're short on time, I'm going to save all the reviews about Wonder Woman that are the embargo was just lifted. I'm going to save that for the next show. I do want to get to birthdays though and say happy birthday. On a lighter note, anyway, actor Clifton James celebrated a birthday on May 29th. He played Sheriff J.W. Pepper in Live and Let Die and The Man with the Golden Gun. Secret agent. On whose side? So good. Danny Elfman celebrated a birthday on May 29th. He did the score for Batman and Batman Returns. Brilliant scores. If you know the iconic Batman theme, then you know exactly what I'm talking about here. Morgan Freeman from the Dark Knight trilogy, who played Lucius Fox, celebrates a birthday on June 1st. Jonathan Pryce also celebrates a birthday on June 1st. He played Elliot Carver in Tomorrow Never Dies. Marvin Hamlish celebrates a birthday on June 2nd. He did the score to The Spy Who Loved Me. One of his best tunes on there was Bond 77. It's a funky 70s version of the James Bond theme. I always think about it. I listen to it when I run too, or exercise, and always picture just Sir Roger out there skiing, and just skiing off that mountaintop. So good. And Frank McRae celebrates a birthday on June 3rd. He played Sharky in License to Kill. I'm not going to be able to get to some of the things I wanted to tonight, but I know I hopefully was able to pay somewhat of a tribute to Sir Roger Moore. Like I said, best way we can honor this man is just to go back and watch his films, dress like him. Remember the quotes in there, all the lines in there. We use them from time to time. At least I know I do. But that's how he would want to be remembered. So that wraps it up for this episode of the Batman vs. James Bond show. Please subscribe on Spreaker and iTunes, rate it 5 stars, and leave a nice review for me on there. I would very much appreciate it. The biggest thing I always ask is that you share the show with your friends, your family, and anyone that is a fan of Batman and Bond. Follow me on all the various social media networks, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Batman vs. Bond. Find the show at batmanvsbond.com. and on the BS Podcast Network. And also be sure to check out all the other great programming on there, including Science Faction Podcast, Unpopular Culture Podcast, and Nerds with Words Podcast. Like James Bond, I will return. Until next time, I'm Brian Thomas. Thanks for listening. Have a great week, everyone. Rest in peace, Sir Roger. Bye-bye.
Mr. Bond. James Bond.
007 License to Kill. Vodka martini, shaken, not stirred.
You're in great danger.
I usually am. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned.
That's putting it mildly, 007.
You're that secret agent!
How does that grab you? Stand back, girls.
What the?
Have I ever let you down?
Frequently.
You have a very good memory for faces.
And figures. Bottoms up?
Look after Mr. Bond. See that some harm comes to him.
There never has been.
Oh, James.
There never will be.
Oh, James.
Anybody but you.
Nobody does it.
What's Bond doing?
I think he's attempting re-entry, sir.
You're not thinking that.
I sure am, boy.
What do you think you're doing?
Keeping the British hand up, sir.
The preceding podcast is part of the BS Podcast Network. Visit bspodcastnetwork.com for more shows just like this one, and perhaps a few that are just a little bit better.